Daniel Defoe, Robinson Crusoe, Part 78. My next concern was to get me a stone mortar to stamp or beat some corn in, for as to the meal there was no thought of arriving at that perfection of art with one pair of hands. To supply this want, I was at great loss, for of all the trades in the world, I was as perfectly unqualified for a stone cutter as for any whatever. Neither had I any tools to go about it with. I spent many a day to find out a great stone big enough to cut hollow and make fit for a mortar, and could find none at all except what was in the solid rock, and which I had no way to dig or cut out, nor indeed were the rocks in the island of hardness sufficient, but were all of a sandy crumbling stone, which neither would bear the weight of a heavy pestle, nor would break the corn without filling it with sand. So, after a great deal of time lost in searching for a stone, I gave it over and resolved to look out for a great block of hard wood, which I found indeed much easier, and getting one as big as I had strength to stir, I rounded it and formed it on the outside with my axe and hatchet, and then, with the help of fire and infinite labor, made a hollow place in it, as the Indians in Brazil make their canoes. After this I made a great heavy pestle of bitter of the wood called the ironwood, and this I prepared and laid by against I had my next crop of corn, which I proposed to myself to grind, or rather pound into meal to make bread. My next difficulty was to make a sieve or sears to dress my meal, and to part it from the bran and the husk, without which I did not see it possible I could have any bread. This was a most difficult thing even to think on, for, to be sure, I had nothing like the necessary thing to make it. I mean fine thin canvas or stuff to search the meal through, and here I was at a full stop for many months, nor did I really know what to do. Linen I had none left, but what was mere rags. I had goat's hair, but neither knew how to weave it or spin it, and I know not how. Here were no tools to work it with. All the remedy that I found for this was that at last I did remember I had among the seamen's clothes, which were saved out of the ship, some neckcloths of calico or muslin, and with some pieces of these I made 3 small sieves proper enough for the work, and thus I made shift for some years. How I did afterwards I shall show in its place. The baking part was the next thing to be considered, and how I should make bread when I came to have corn, for first I had no yeast. As to that part there was no supplying the want, so I did not concern myself much about it, but for an oven I was indeed in great pain. At length I found out an experiment for that also, which was this: I made some earthen vessels very broad, but not deep, that is to say about 2 feet diameter, and not above 9 inches deep. These I burned in the fire as I had done the other, and laid them by, and when I wanted to bake, I made a great fire upon my hearth, which I had pried with some square tiles of my own baking, and burning also, but I shouldn't call them square. When the firewood was burned pretty much into embers or live coals, I drew them forward upon this hearth.